Welcome to Healing the Tigress, a podcast of conversations and stories on Asian American Pacific Islander maternal mental health. We are your hosts. I'm Peggy, a perinatal mental health therapist.
And I'm Jasmine, a clinical pharmacist who is perinatal mental health certified. Both of us are Taiwanese American mothers who have lived experiences of postpartum depression and anxiety. It felt like we didn't see anyone who looked like us also struggling with their mental health in new motherhood. But we would go on to learn that it wasn't just us and that there was so much more to perinatal mental health.
So we created this podcast because we know that sharing these stories can begin to break the stigma of mental health in our community, and we want to help heal the inner tigress in all AAPI parents. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Healing the Tigress. Last spring, we had the pleasure of interviewing two AAPI neurodivergent moms, Jenny and Bettina, raising their own autistic kids who also started their own amazing show called Not a Tiger Mom podcast. We love that our guest for today's episode actually found us through Jenny and Bettina's episode last year and then briefly shared her own journey of raising an autistic child. So in honor of April being National Autism Acceptance Month, we invited Lana Marcucio onto the podcast to share her inspiring story today.
Lana is a mom of three, one of which is a non-speaking sweet girl with autism. She eventually turned to technology to help her daughter speak. Lana has been a mobile app developer for many years prior to motherhood. So when this mom couldn't find a software good enough for her daughter, she created one herself. Her daughter's name is Quinn, and her app is called QVoice. Welcome to the podcast, Lana.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. Would you please start us off by telling us about your cultural background and where you are in your motherhood journey?
Sure. I think I listened to one of your episodes and one person had said I'm a 1.5 generation Chinese Vietnamese American. And that seemed to fit me because my parents are Chinese by blood, but they grew up in Vietnam. And so we had a lot of, both of those cultures. So I call myself Chinese and Vietnamese. I was born in a refugee camp in Indonesia just after the Vietnam War. So I am an American. So my title is really Chinese Vietnamese American, and I am 1.5 gen. I wasn't born in the United States, but I am mostly Americanized because I came over at 1 year old. And I have three wonderful children. The oldest is 16 next month. The youngest is 10 years old next month. I have two boys, one girl, and my daughter Quinn is in the middle and is closer in age to my younger son.
Wow, that's so much experience under your belt and so much generational cultural things that you bring with you too. Now, as the second eldest of 5 kids in your own family that you've told us, you mentioned that your parents didn't really make parenthood seem very appealing to you when you were growing up. Yeah, and you said that you didn't even really want children at first when you became an adult. So what changed your mind that you went on to become a mom of 3?
I know, my high school best friend still teases me today. How did you get kids? My husband was a big factor, to be honest. Parenthood didn't appeal to me just because I was one of the older two. We were about 13 months apart. So I had to do a lot of the babysitting, and I felt like I kind of got a taste of what motherhood was. And it just did not seem very rewarding. There's a lot of work and very little appreciation and acknowledgement. And it just, I don't know, it seemed like a bum deal, motherhood. But I married an Italian American man, and he had such great memories of his childhood, and he really wanted to repeat those with his own children. So I agreed, why not? Let's just see what the other side of parenthood looks. Maybe, he's very close with his parents. He has a lot of respect for his parents. They seem to, quote unquote, did it right. There's a lot of honesty between the family members, whereas in my family, there was a lot of secret keeping because my parents were just so strict. It's kind of what happens. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to see. So I had my first, and he was wonderful. It was a challenging start to motherhood, but he was wonderful. And it took me a long time before I agreed to even have a second. My husband really, really wanted a second. And I was like, we're doing okay. Like, this was a nice taste of motherhood. There's 2 against 1. Why shake the boat? But he finally convinced me to have a second one because I think it was a geriatric choice. When we get old and gray and your children have to take care of you, he didn't want our son to be alone. And then that brought up memories of my siblings. And truly, my siblings were the best memories of my childhood. We have grown up to be very different personalities, but we are there for each other, and we just have the best memories. I can still go on vacation with my siblings and be fine. So that was the true test. And then number 3 was an oops baby. I needed intervention with number 1 and number 2. So who knew the chances that number 3 was going to be as easy as it was? But he's brought a lot of joy in the family. We are glad that we have 3 kids. He truly was an oops baby. I thought 2 was more than enough.
Thanks for that story. One thing that we forgot to mention as we introduced you is your handle. And when you found us, that stood out to us as well. Your Instagram handle is Tigerish Mom. And since we have a play on tiger moms, obviously with our show being called Healing the Tigress, could you explain more about Tigerish Mom and how you're somewhat of a recovering tiger mom?
Yeah. So my oldest was born in the year of the tiger. So you can just imagine Tiger Mom, my moniker. My siblings used that moniker very, very quickly. I was the Tiger Mom. And honestly, I embraced it. I kind of enjoy that tough love philosophy. I think I excelled, or I think I flourished under tough love. So it just made more sense to me. Having high expectations, it being tough on your kids to advance the maturity, respecting elders, wanting them to have a good life, a good job. It just, I was all about that. That made more sense to me. And it, as life would have it, my 2 kids were the one that shifted me to a tigerish mom. My oldest has ADHD. He's very ADHD. And after doing much research, I know I do not have ADHD. I'm very type A, very organized, very focused, very driven. It was a mindset that I didn't understand what it means to be ADHD. And honestly, the Tiger Mom way does not work with ADHD kids. They're too hard on themselves. So they don't need any more toughness in their life. If anything, they need more compassion in their life, someone to actually be with them. I turned to a Tigerish mom after my second was born, and we had all these diagnoses fall upon us. And it was just very clear the tiger mom principles was not going to work for her. She is extremely delayed. She was diagnosed with epilepsy, then autism, then just more diagnoses one after the other. And you can't tough love through developmental delays. You really have to have a lot of compassion and patience and just appreciation for all these skills that neurotypical babies get for free. I was teaching them at a very, very basic level. So it was just very clear that I had to abandon my tiger mom ways. It's not going to work with her. And because she was doing so much therapy and I was so focused on her development because she was so behind, I had the foresight of finding a therapist for my son to make sure that he was okay. He was just diagnosed with ADHD as well. And I was just so overwhelmed. I couldn't even handle what does this mean now? So I got him a therapist so that she could really be his advocate because he was 4 at the time when she was born. So he was 6 years old when she got diagnosed with epilepsy and all that. And my third child was born that same year that she had all the diagnoses. I just couldn't handle it. So I made sure to get a therapist for him. And the therapist and I butt heads. And I think that was my tiger mom ways getting in the way. I just kept thinking, you're You guys are coddling him.
Mm.
Children in China can work in factories and work the farms, like he just needs more responsibility and more structure and more this. I wanted him to grow up faster than he could. And the ADHD piece was the part that I truly, truly did not understand. So it took her actually sitting me down and telling me, your relationship with your son is suffering. Like, do you understand that? And I was like, what? And she explained the things that he was telling her in therapy. And right away I got defensive. I was like, well, that's not exactly what happens. And she's like, stop. We're not going to debate the details of what happened. We're not going to tear apart his story. That is not the point. What we need to do is focus on the feelings. This is how he feels about you. And that just shattered me. And I was like, I pushed too far. I was too tough. And I think that's where Tigerish Mom came about, because I had to reevaluate, what do I want to be as a mom? And before, like, being a tough mom, like, I don't care if you like me or not. If you're going to be successful, I did my job. And when I reevaluated in my own childhood, I don't have a good relationship with my parents, and they were tough on me. Yeah, I did excel. I am successful, but I have no relationship with them. Is that really what I want from my kid? It was just clear. That's not what I want for my kid. So it took a lot of self-reflection, talking over with my husband, because he also thought I was way too hard. And I was like, what do you know? You're Italian. Like, your mom coddles you. It's just... And then I settled on, you know what? The true success for me as a mom is that my child will see me as a team member and not, from top down, not someone that's trying to dictate their life. I want to be an asset. I want to be a supporter. I want to be a coach. I don't want to be a parent. I don't want to be that. I don't want that kind of relationship. And he needs me. He needs me right now. He's navigating the ADHD world. He's not sure why things are the way they are, why he can't function the way his peers are. It was really tough for him. And I just have to be there for him. So Tigerish Mom came out. Everybody thought it was hilarious. And at some point I made a blog, and that kind of fell by the wayside because of COVID. And then I don't know, then I just kind of kept up with it. I felt like these lessons that I'm learning as a tiger mom, I think other tiger moms could benefit from. Similar to your story. I just wanted to help. And that brought life to me. And I'm proud to say I have a good relationship with my son. It took many years to repair. And I shared this story with my siblings, with my cousins, and they're kind of seeing it as well. And they're seeing my success now. It does take a long time to repair. And that's how I know I went down the wrong way. I went too hard. This tiger mom thing is not going to work out. But I am still a tiger mom at heart. So it's still an ongoing struggle. It's still an ongoing thing to kind of repeat to myself. Now, Lon, like, does this make sense? Like, are you pushing your son away? Are you on the same side as him? Or are you actually on the opposing side? Because more often than not, if I'm on the opposing side, it's not going to work. And same with my daughter. If she has to see me as someone that's helping her, otherwise, it's not going to work.
We'll be right back after this short message. Hey, Healing the Tigers fans. Our episode 55 guest, Emily Chuang, is offering a limited time promotion just for you. From now until Mother's Day, book a photo shoot with her and mention code HTT26 when you reach out, and she'll take $100 off your session. Based in the SF Bay Area and available to travel. Follow her on Instagram at Emily Chuang, that's EMILIECHUONG, or DM and email her to get started. I think there's no shame in still having a bit of that tiger mom inside us, because one, we are children of tiger parents, and Jasmine and I constantly catch ourselves being like, oh, we did it again. We tiger mommed ourselves. Like sometimes we are hard on ourselves, and it's hard to, it's not like a healing process that happens overnight. Like you said, that repair with your son took a long time.
And I had to go through therapy. I mean, I didn't figure out this alone. At one point, like every single one of my family members were in therapy. I don't know, I just had to reflect and figure out what is truly important without outside influences. And it does come back when I see my friends and their successful kids, doing their piano recital, or, getting that competitive edge still sneaks up once in a while. But I just have to remember my kids are healthy. They talk to me, and that really means more than anything. That really is that's really how I'm going to win at the end, is my kids still talk to me.
I feel like you're breaking so many generational cycles here, and that must have, like you said, takes a long time and a lot of mental strength to focus yourself on that goal. That the end goal is that you want that relationship. You don't want the accolades and the prize of being able to say, they achieved XYZ, but they didn't achieve a relationship with me. Like, and at the end of the day, maybe they're so successful, they go off and do their own thing, but they don't come back to you. And if they don't come and talk to you about things, and at that point, you're right, you haven't actually succeeded in this parenting relationship. So I kind of love hearing how your journey has been through this. And I feel the same way, where there is this tiger mom inside that I'm wrestling with a lot of times. And I think it does come out as the kids get a little bit older, that they're starting to do extracurriculars. They're starting to get into their own interests. And even though you're letting them pursue their own thing, a part of you is like, well, you could do it a little this way. You could practice more. You could, like, and that part, I think, is just kind of like ingrained in us, because growing up as children of immigrants, we didn't have a lot of resources. Whatever resources your parents gave you to be able to pursue these kinds of things, you should have taken it to the 1000th level, because they're already sacrificing so much to be able to put you through this. But we have the privilege now. We have to step back and be like, actually, like, I don't have to do it that way. My kids are lucky that they have the privilege. They can actually just explore in their own capacity, and maybe not, make it a chore that they end up not liking what they're trying to do, right? And you just shared with us that your children have varying degrees of disabilities, from ADHD to autism to epilepsy. So I really want to honor that range of things. You're juggling so much here. And since we're focusing a little bit more on autism for the month of April, I want to hear a little bit maybe more about how you navigated your daughter's autism diagnosis when you found out. Like, what was going through your mind when you learned about it? And then I think another part you kind of mentioned was that it was also hard to communicate about that diagnosis with your parents.
Yeah, that's a funny story. So she was diagnosed at 2 years old with epilepsy first, and that diagnosis hit me the hardest. She was diagnosed with autism 6 months later, and also between her two diagnoses, my third child was born. So I was, as you can imagine, an emotional wreck the whole time. I knew something was off with her, but the pediatrician kept saying, no, 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 stop comparing. She's fine. She has good eye contact. There's no way. And it wasn't until she was 1 year old when they were like, what do you mean she doesn't speak? She doesn't babble? Does she like point? I'm like, no, she doesn't. She's so chill. And then 2 years old. So we entered early intervention program, the state early intervention program called Birth to 3 in Connecticut. She automatically qualified. She was delayed in 4 of the 5 areas, so she qualified. And it was one of the therapists that come to the house that saw her seizure. We didn't know what we were looking at. This wasn't a grand mal seizure. It's one of those petite mal seizures. So it looked like blinks, and like it almost looks like she fell asleep. Seizures are basically like an electrical storm in your brain. It can be prolonged. It could be minutes. It could be really quick. Hers was like under a second. I mean, she was delayed in walking, and between 1 and 2 years old, they're like, we're not sure. Her muscles are developed, but she just won't walk. Like, we don't know what it is. And I think she was having seizures before that, but nobody knew what they looked like. So at 2 years old, right after her birthday, a therapist saw it and was like, get her to the pediatrician. And seizures are not predictable. So I can make an appointment with a pediatrician, but it's not like they could see it. So my husband had this foresight. I was working at the time. I was more in a corporate job and he was more of a startup at the time. And so he got it on video. He sent it to the pediatrician, and then we got referred to neurology right away. And it was confirmed that she has epilepsy. And that could explain why she didn't want to take steps, because she just didn't feel stable. And we hit a wall with the early intervention program. If you don't have the autism diagnosis, you are capped at like 6 hours a month. And when I found that out, because she was delayed, and anytime we had these 6-month goals, she just would never achieve those goals. And as a type A tiger mom, I took that even harder. And so when I found out there was this, I'll just say it, it's a loophole. If you have the autism diagnosis, you can get unlimited hours. And I knew she had autism tendencies. So I knew it wasn't out of the realm of possibility she could get the diagnosis. And if she could get it and it could open doors, why not? But she was a shoo-in to get the autism diagnosis. So we're like, great, give her all the things, all the interventions. When she got diagnosed, I was very happy about it. I didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't want to put her in a bubble. I didn't want to be the person that's just collecting diagnoses left and right, like it's going out of style. Like, I just wanted to be logical about this. And that was just a way to get her more help. I mean, she still wasn't talking at 2 years old, 3 years old. And I don't regret getting her the diagnosis. And I tell all my friends, I host a support group for parents in my house once a month, for parents with IEPs, and anybody who is not sure about finding a diagnosis or getting evaluated or assessed. I'm always pro get as much information as you can, because you never know what those information can do to help your child. It doesn't define your child. For insurance purposes, yeah, it kind of defines them. But outside of insurance, it doesn't define them. They are still your child. You still know them. They're no different than when they had a diagnosis or not had the diagnosis, but you're more informed, and it could help them in the future. So I'm very pro getting data gathering and looking for information and just see what works for your child.
What was that story that you were saying about when you told your parents?
So it came as 2 parts. There is a language barrier with my family. There was a divorce in the middle. So we pretty much have 3 different languages going on at the same time. We have Chinese, we have Vietnamese, and we have English. And if you don't know all 3, you probably won't understand like our conversation. It's like a morph of it. And I moved away after college. My language was definitely very, very limited. I didn't know how to explain to my parents what was happening to my daughter. They could see, they just noticed right away, she doesn't speak. And they actually saw some of the seizures, but they didn't know what they were seeing. They were like, she just keeps falling. I didn't have the language to explain seizures to them, and I didn't want to freak them out. And I absolutely did not want any more advice on how to handle seizures and her medication. I didn't want them trying to find a Chinese doctor in Chinatown and like trying to put herbs on her. Like, it just was my fear. So I didn't actually tell them until Quinn was about 6 years old. So it was a long time. I had every sibling and my husband come up to me saying, you need to tell them. They keep asking questions. And I was like, nope, they don't need to know. I don't want them to treat her any differently. I don't want them to think she is less than the other grandkids. So I did it more to protect her, but I also just didn't have the language. So the year was up, it was right before 2020. My sister had twins and my mom stayed with her for a year. And it was during that stay, I guess they let the cat out of the bag. My sister married a Chinese man, so he had way more vocabulary than I did. So he was able to explain epilepsy to her. We didn't have the language for autism, but he was able to and Google Translate also played a role in that conversation. And then they FaceTime me. They're like, oh, you didn't tell mom yet? I'm like, no. And like, oh, well, we kind of did. I'm like, oh, how'd they take it? How'd they take it? She's like, they have a lot of questions. I'm like, all right, let's try it out. And I have to say, they took it really well. They didn't involve any Chinese doctors. They didn't involve any, anything. They said their heart was very sad. And, the next time that they saw Quinn, they were just very loving and doting, and they didn't see her any different. So I was shocked. I didn't think that was going to happen. A few years later, actually a couple weeks ago, my mom landed in the hospital for a collapsed lung. And there was a translator. The hospital gave her a translator. And I was like, do you know anything about epilepsy? She's like, yeah. Like, we have to do all these training for the proper vocabulary. I was like, can I use you to explain autism to my parents? And they're like, yeah. So just recently, about 2 weeks ago, we hashed it out, talked it out with the Vietnamese translator. My dad wasn't present, but that's okay. My mom is a talker, so she'll fill him in. But she had a lot of questions. I don't think she fully understood what seizures were, so they were able to explain it like the electrical storm. They were able to explain whenever she's seizing that often, it actually can cause brain damage, and that's why there's a developmental delay. That's why her language is delayed. That's why a lot of things are delayed, because one of the translators, her son has autism. And she said, she was talking to my mom. I didn't understand it, or I must have zoned out. And she was saying that she worked really hard with her son to learn how to speak. And now he's going to college. And I was like, oh boy, I got to stop this train, because I don't want her to think I'm a failure because I can't get my daughter to go to college.
Oh no.
So that's kind of what prompted it. And then I pulled in a different translator. She was working at the time. And I was like, and she knew the previous translator. So she knew her family. They were actually friends. So I was like, do you think you can translate for me? She's like, oh yeah, sure. And then we went through the whole thing. I had to explain to her, like, I don't want you to think we're not doing anything. We've done a lot of speech therapy with her. We've done everything. Like, I quit my job to take care of my daughter. I've done so much. And my mom's questions were, why does she have to take all this medicine? And I was like, because that's how you control the seizures. Otherwise, there will be more brain damage. I cannot afford to reject modern medicine. I can't afford to take her off her seizure meds and hope that the ginseng and the whatevers are gonna stop her seizures. I know it's a lot of medicine. I'm not happy that she's taking all this medicine too, but like, what choice do I have? Unless we move to China or Vietnam and see the Eastern medicine, but I'm not willing to do that. And it's controlled for the most part. It took a couple years to find the right cocktail. I mean, we videotape a lot of her seizures so that we could show caregivers what they look like, show her teachers, all that other stuff. And my husband cannot watch those videos. Like, it's truly, truly traumatizing to see your little baby. I just didn't want to. It was helpful to have the translator kind of explain, like, we're not sitting around doing nothing. And I wrote an app. So I explained to her also through the translator what this app does. and that I'm going to conferences for speech therapy and assistive tech to learn how to better my app and be able to pass it along to other parents who are also in the same boat. So it took many years to explain, but I think they got it now.
Yeah. Wow. I think that journey, and especially the part where there's the translator, the 3 different languages, right? Vietnamese and Chinese. It was explained in Chinese first, and then years later it's explained in Vietnamese.
Yeah.
And not even just the language barrier, but then there's also the cultural value barriers, right? Like, why can't you just give her ginseng? Or my mom's favorite is ginger tea cures everything, right?
Right.
And it's interesting because it sounds like this experience of a language barrier plays a role also in how do you communicate with Quinn and what communication looks like with a non-speaking, nonverbal autistic child. And I think some people may not know what tools are already available, because I imagine maybe there were some that you tried. Kind of like the story when you're like, okay, this translator's not working because you're making me look bad. Now my mom's too focused on how do you get Quinn to college, right? Like, thank you for translating. It's funny because when I used to work in the hospitals, the translators would always tell us there's a difference between a translator and interpreter. And I, to this day, can't remember what the difference is. But I imagine part of it is I'm literally translating what you say versus I'm going to interpret what you say and then I'll say it in this language. And the next thing you know, my kid with autism goes to college now. So can your granddaughter, right? But I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit about the kinds of software that were already existing when you were looking for tools for Quinn and what their limitations were that convinced you that you needed to take the reins into your own hands and develop your own app.
Okay, so it was after 2020, that pivotal year of COVID and homeschooling and all the things, that we decided to use AAC. AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. It's basically a software that has buttons on the screen, and if you tap on it, it'll speak. It's an aided communication device. Another part of communication is also using sign language. But sign language requires the other person to also know sign language, whereas this AAC device, it speaks for you. So there's a wider range of people that can actually understand my child. So we were doing tons of speech therapy. I sat through so many hours. I homeschooled her during COVID. I became her speech therapist. And we just really could not get her vocabulary count up because she kept cycling through the words that she knew. And it just wasn't sticking. She just did not have a very strong receptive language or internal language. We had to go towards this AAC device where we had to teach her where the words were, how to use it, and what they actually mean. And at the time, we were doing a lot of telehealth. So there weren't a lot of AAC programs that were built for telehealth that could work remotely. Also, the big AAC apps that were out there, they were made in the 80s. The technology was just super, super old. And I remember using it and just thinking, I'm a seasoned app developer. I know what good software is. And this was painful. I went through every setting. I knew the app inside and out. I reprogrammed it to whatever the speech therapist or SLP wanted. I did it all, and it was just painful. It was missing so many tools that I knew can make teaching her speech a lot easier and teaching her speech through telehealth a lot easier. I wanted a way for the speech therapist to be able to see her device remotely instead of through the camera.
I have maybe this is like a really silly question because I don't understand. Do you have to learn how to read first before you can speak?
No. If you think about toddlers, they learn how to speak by just hearing language surrounding them. And they make the associations and the connections to what does water mean? What does please mean? And by modeling so much language, they end up absorbing. This is one of those skills that you get for free with neurotypical kids. My daughter didn't have that, and maybe it was due to her seizure activity, but she wasn't able to process or make the association that water means this, or give me means this, or mama means this. Like, even to this day, she mixes up mommy and daddy. She knows who I am. She knows I'm different than daddy, but she does not, the wiring is not in place for her to make those as language associations. It's very, very fascinating when you think about it at a neurological level. That's receptive language, being able to have that internal language, and I felt like she had none. I joked that she was born speaking Japanese and the rest of us were speaking English. And I was not introducing any other language to her. Like, we got to master English before we master any other language. I don't care what the research says. She does not have a strong receptive language. And if you don't have a strong receptive language, the expressive language, the language that you output from your mouth, will not work. That's why she kept cycling through the 13 words that she knew, because one of them is going to give her what she wants. So it was just very, very interesting to see it from her perspective. She did not get that for free. And that language development period, I forget what the age is, like, she missed that window. So we are truly trying to teach her language at a very, very basic level, even piecing together what a subject and a verb is, what adjectives are. Like, it's very, very broken toddler speak at this point. And I'm fascinated when I look at toddlers now, because I had friends that had kids later on. And when I watch how they're like the beginning language that toddlers pick up, it's very fascinating to me, because that's essentially, those are the words that I need to teach my daughter. It's that very basic, up, mama, and then how do they move words or combine words? That's very fascinating to me, and it's been studied. I'm not the only one that like is nerding out about this stuff. So it's very interesting to me, just because of also my multilingual background. I just have a fascination with languages because I grew up in a melting pot of languages. I could pick up languages fairly quickly because I was not stuck on language rules. A lot of my peers could not translate from English and into to French or to Spanish, because they were trying to do a one-to-one association with every single word. But I didn't have that, because Chinese is very different than the Chinese language structure is very different than the English structure. So I had that flexibility in my head, and it just proved to be very helpful as I'm creating basically a language app to help my daughter.
Wow. That's so fascinating to me too. And as I'm trying to teach my daughter Chinese at this point, I realize that too, is that sometimes you can't do a one-to-one because the sentence is
Yeah.
structured backwards in Chinese versus
Yes.
English is the other direction. And you just kind of got to hear it, like you said. And I think we take that for granted. It's like the more you hear it in this certain order, you know that in this language, I have to say it in this order. That's really cool to think about. Can you tell us a little bit about how QVoice works?
Yeah, QVoice was built for telehealth, so that's probably the big one. But it's set up as a grid structure. It's picture based, so that's how Quinn is able to understand what these words mean, because there's actual pictures. It's not required that she learns how to read, and this is similar to other AAC apps. I think what I differ from other AAC apps, I put GIFs, animated images, in my QVoice, and it blew the providers away. They were like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, do you know how old GIFs are? This is not new technology.
Yeah. It is pretty old, right?
Yeah.
I put in a ton of data collection behind the scenes, because that was important to me as a parent, to be able to see how is she using the device throughout the day. That doesn't quite exist in the existing software. Or if it does exist, you have to install a third-party app and then download the data and then upload it to get it reviewed and then wait for the email to generate. Like, come on now. This is 2025 or 2021. Like, the technology can be so much easier. I have online sync. So if you were to go on my laptop and edit her profile and add a button, it would automatically synchronize to her device. So I don't have to take her device away. That's the kind of old technology. That's what old technology did, is you had to take her voice away, her device away, in order to program, in order to back up, in order to do whatever, and then give her back her voice. And there was always one device. They don't have multiple devices. And with QVoice, you can log in from anywhere that has an internet connection, and you can have access to her words and her exact layout on the phone, on the tablet. Like, I just made it more universally accessible. I just put in technology improvements that just make sense these days. It's helped me navigate Quinn and teach Quinn language. When we started AAC, it was 2021. She learned language so much quicker. If there was a game that we would play, she made it up. She kept pointing to the sky, and she would just grunt or say up. And if I look up, she'll start tickling me. So it was her version of made you look. And then I told the speech therapist at the time about it, and they were like, let's use this. Let's get her to say look up. But she would not say it. She kept saying up. I learned the speech prompts. I learned everything. We were just trying to get her to say two words together to make me look up. She loved this activity, but she just could not say it. And then we programmed it in the device, and a few days later, she started to say look up. And we found out later it's because the AAC device says the word the same exact way every single time. That makes it easier for her to understand language. And you can experience that if you've ever listened to someone with an English accent or an Australian accent, very, very heavy. Even though it's English, there's a cognitive load that happens when it's not pronounced the right way, and your brain just needs, so much extra time to piece together what exactly that English word is. I think that is my daughter's condition. She does not have the cognitive capacity to understand that mama is the same exact word. So, I mean, that was a light bulb moment. And since we've been using AAC, her receptive language has improved because it's just so much easier to understand English and make those associations when you don't have the variability of tone, volume, pitch, all that kind of stuff that comes with normal speaking. So that just became my life purpose. I'm focused on creating an AAC app specifically for kids who have cognitive challenges, because that is my daughter. The AAC systems that are out there right now, that are heavily researched, they work really well for folks who have not normal cognitive function. It's the CP kids that are just as bright. It's the kids that have that receptive language, that strong receptive language. They just need help outputting. My daughter is different. She doesn't have the receptive language. So I've built in tools really focused on that piece.
It's like a light bulb moment when you mentioned how the app will say look up the same way. But all of us, right, we probably say look up, and we all sound a little different. We have a different tone, a little different intonation. And actually makes me think of when you mentioned that you know Chinese and Vietnamese and English. Chinese has 5 tones, I believe, right? I think my understanding is that Vietnamese has like 7 or 9. And so as someone who didn't, for myself, grow up hearing those tones, there's a window of age where you can hear them, and then you lose that. And so my husband's Vietnamese, and I hear them speak Vietnamese all the time, but I can't hear all those tones. And so I can hear the words all the time, and I can try to say some of them, but I cannot do it. I don't have that ability. And so it's really fascinating that I see kind of that blend of like we too are having some of these kind of language pieces, but then we also take so for granted how quickly we as neurotypical folks have picked up on language.
Yeah, that window of learning language is so precious. I have so much appreciation for all these skills that kids get for free. My youngest is 2 years younger than Quinn, so he kind of grew up in basically the therapy world, and he has benefited. We pull him in as a peer. He's done it all, and just how quickly he picks up on things, and how advanced, how much he benefited from having therapy. I'm in awe still when I look at a toddler and I hear them speak and I hear the language. It fascinates me because I know how hard it is to teach that with my daughter. So it's definitely made me appreciate just the human body, the mind, the things that we take for granted. I come from a family of polyglots. They are folks that I believe are fluent in 4 or more languages. I think I counted like 9 languages that she speaks, because there's different dialects of Chinese, there's Vietnamese, there's something else. And then I also have cousins that are very fluent. So we are really a family that's surrounded by a lot of languages. With my software background, with the hours of speech therapy that I've put in with my daughter, it really felt like I was training my whole life for this moment to create an AAC app for my daughter. It has just become my life's work, my passion, and quite simply something I nerd out about. Go to the I go to the speech therapy conferences and the assistive tech conferences, and I am able to more or less keep up. I just don't have that fancy paperwork that says I know what I'm talking about, but I really feel like this I was meant to do this. Even things like code switching, using broken English and feeding that into AI to spell out a full sentence. I don't know. It's this whole speech therapy discipline has really impressed me at the research level. And I don't know. I feel like this is where I'm meant to be.
I'm learning so much from you. This is so cool to me.
Yay.
Yeah, I love that. And actually hearing everything that you've been doing have done. I think earlier you mentioned you quit your job to just really take care of Quinn full time, and now you developed this app and everything. And not to forget the other two kids that you're also taking care of. And I imagine all of this also as you kind of transitioned into that Tigerish mom, it can take a toll on us. It's a lot. It's a lot of mental load. It's a lot of emotional work. What do you do to ensure your mental health as well so that you can continue to support all your children?
Well, I listen to podcasts like Healing the Tigerish. It has helped. It definitely has helped validate and expose and it really explain some of the confusion that I had growing up or going, navigating this motherhood journey. I've done a ton of therapy on myself. I am on medication. I'm on antidepressants. I'm a big supporter of medication, in case you haven't noticed. I feel bad about it, but then I don't feel bad about it. I had to work through it in therapy, and it made sense when you think about the supports that you need to get through the day. With the amount of stress that's in my life, I need to work out 4 hours every day. I need to make sure I get 8 hours of sleep. I need to make sure I'm eating like the proper nutrients and feeding my body and my soul. I need all these things. And that just is not the reality. I just cannot squeeze any more hours in the day when you do as much speech therapy and just therapy in general with all three of my kids. So the medication helps. It helps me become a better mom because I'm not so triggered and I'm not so mean. I'm not as yelling as much. Oh, I'm also very focused on managing my cortisol. So anything at home that can be automated is automated. And I'll give you examples. I run my household similar to a restaurant. Packages are opened and in stock, and things, even medication wise, everything is kind of in pill cabinets so that there's less cognitive load every day. If I can reduce my cognitive load at all, I do it because it really does save me more patience at the end for my children. My Roomba actually serves as an alarm for me. So at 8 o'clock, it goes off, which means it's time to go to bed. It will go off at 7:30 in the morning. It's time to go to the bus. So I really find creative, get a Roomba. That's part of the automation as well. Or, whatever. Just as much as I can automate, I automate. As much as I can reduce my stress, I reduce my stress. And oddly enough, I don't give myself goals anymore because it was killing me every time I don't make the goals. And my daughter already barely makes her goals. It's identifying what gives me my cortisol spikes and how can I mitigate it? Because I need to be able to get through the day. And if it means pulling back on what I used to value, it's pulling back on what I used to value. But it will get me through the day.
I love that. Yeah, it's so refreshing and honest, and to hear it said out loud, I think, that you're a proponent of medication and you're a proponent of taking care of yourself and thinking about how can I help out future Lana to be less stressed. I think that's what I'm hearing, and really that self-love for yourself so that you can be your best for your children is so apparent. And I love hearing all these strategies that you have.
Therapy was a big part of it. I don't think I could have gotten to it without talking to someone and finding the right therapist as well. It's like dating. You really have to find the right fit and then, be honest in therapy.
Well, Lana, thank you so much today for sharing so much of your journey. I've learned so much from you and just feel really grateful that we were connected together and able to have you on our podcast. We end all of our episodes, as you might know, by thinking about how, in the spirit of healing your inner tigress, what would present day you go back and tell yourself in one of your hardest times to heal her?
This question almost got me into tears.
It gets us into tears too.
So I would try to deliver it without any tears. But I have to tell myself that I am valuable, that I will be valuable to everyone I meet, and I am enough. The skills that I've picked up along the way will make sense later. One of 5 kids, it's very easy to get lost and not seen and not understood with the language barriers and all that stuff. And it will be revealed later why I had to go through those hard times. It will make more sense later, but it doesn't mean I'm less valuable. And it's an ongoing conversation I have with my therapist. They have to remind me, you are valuable. You do meet people's expectation. You're a good listener, you're a good mediator. But I wish I could have told myself years ago that I am enough and I am valuable.
Thank you, Lana. We too agree that you're valuable. Your story is so valuable, everything you've been through. And I hope that when you said that a mom listening will feel that and be reminded that she too is also valuable. Where can our listeners find more of you? I know we already mentioned Tigerish Mom, but where can they find you or learn about QVoice? Where can they get QVoice if they want to try it with their child?
Yeah, you can go to our website, QVoice.app is the website. We're on iOS and Android, and we are also a web app. QVoice.app is also on TikTok and Instagram. So that's the handle name. And if you just want to follow me, just for me, it's Tigerish Mom on Instagram. I frequent Instagram more than the other platforms, I will admit. It seems to be a happier place.
Well, that's where we got connected with you and are so happy that, a year later from after we spoke with Jenny and Bettina, we were connected with you. And I hope this is a valuable resource to people out there also trying to navigate these with their kids. And again, thank you so much today for your time.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
We want to thank you deeply for tuning into this episode of Healing the Tigress. The more we share these stories, the more we can help our AAPI mothers and partners. If you enjoyed this episode and our mission, you can help us out in the following ways. Follow our show wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a rating and/or a review, and share our podcast with a friend.
We also encourage you to follow us on Instagram at Healing the Tigress, where we hope to build a community of healing tigresses and give you updates on what's coming. And if you want more bonus episodes, please check out our show notes for how to subscribe to our exclusive content. Or you can also head over to our Buzzsprout page at healingthetigress.buzzsprout.com. We are not for profit. We are here to help our community, but any support you give us is so deeply appreciated. Above all, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here.
Healing the Tigress is produced and edited by Peggy and Jasmine.
Music for this show is remixed by Dr. Tony Quinn of Tony Mixes.
Our intro music is a cover of You and Me by Z Avi, played by our co-host Peggy.
Our outro music is a cover of Green Island Serenade, played by Jasmine's sister.
Cover art design is by Dr. Angela Chung.